Good morning, and welcome to the 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery webinar. My name is Michael Bailey, and today's Monday, June 13th, 2016. I'm getting a little late start today, but that's okay. We'll do it anyway because it's being recorded. Last week, I believe I left off, well, I'll just read this, and I left off the next subject is sense. So thank you for joining us for a more in-depth discussion of the 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery and how they can be used to create true joy, happiness, deep inner peace, and personal prosperity, both emotional and financial. Part of the process of spiritual integration of our higher selves for the expansion of our consciousness, which is also called enlightenment, involves reprogramming the way we think. Our thoughts create our reality and both our internal and external life experiences. We call this the hologram. The 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery, when embodied and lived, will help to change our thought patterns, thoughts that we simply take for granted because they are part of our programming, our life experiences beginning before birth, and our unique perspective on our hologram or our external world. The changing of thought patterns actually changes the programming in our physical body and DNA. The 12 attitudes and responsibilities of mastery are crucial to understanding what kinds of choices lead to what kind of outcomes and provide guidelines regarding choices that lead towards oneness, wholeness, and the freedom from limitation, separation, and lack, and fear, including financial freedom, which are associated with true personal mastery. Now, last week, I didn't have a chance to do, so I'm going to have to scroll through these real quick till we get to where we left off last week. Normally, I'm much more prepared. Okay, so this is where we'll start today, and the subject is sense. There are a lot of things that if you use common sense, and I have this wonderful divine power available to me now, what could I do? Where could I apply that? By simply expanding and contracting using your breath and the Maharic shield with the intention of let divine will touch here, and you are the anchoring rod for what that is, you can create miracles. There are a lot of ideas that will come to you in working with your shield consciousness. The shield it refers to your own subtle energy bodies. Your own shield consciousness, your own Christos consciousness will tell you, if I can expand and contract it, what else can I do with that concept? Okay, I can reach sick people. The politics are going crazy. What if somebody was going to bomb my country? What would happen if 2 or 3 people got together and had a meditation one evening, and all of them expanded their shields out towards the area of unrest with a Christos intention? The focus would be on the Christos intention, not on forcing their will, not saying, do not throw that bomb. You do not know whether it is right or wrong that the bomb gets thrown, and it is not your judgment call down this level. Simply say, let my will be thy will. Let divine will prevail. You might not know what divine will is, because there are too many nuances. But when you surrender it to your crystal's level of identity, it knows all those nuances. You could practice this periodically during times when you are not stressed or under duress. And then if needed, you would be able to do it really quickly. Through aligning yourself with divine will, you could make huge differences. Something to ponder. Take a few breaths using the inhale and exhale to feel centered and calm. Continue to breathe and expand your Maharic shield. And if you don't know how to do that, we'll cover that in another lesson. Just intend that your Maharic shield expand out around you. That's actually enough. As you expand your Maharic shield, hold the intention, let divine will touch here. And some LTR statements, which are linguistic template reprogramming statements. These are spoken affirmations. I am divine will now. Let my will be thy will. Let divine will prevail now in my life. Tactile sense. When we think a thought, we create a manifestation template whether we mean to or not. Our conscious mind here is not the only part of us that constantly generates thought forms, and the thought forms will fill out someplace in chemicals. The emotional body, part of ourselves that is stationed in Dimension 2 consciousness and focused in the second dimensional frequency bands, is a part of us that thinks too. It feels, it thinks, and it has a reaction to what it perceives. The part of ourselves that is our emotional body right now is partly associated with the subconscious mind, because there was something done to our DNA that blocked our natural ability of our emotional body, the part of ourselves, to communicate directly with the mental body part of ourselves. It is like they speak different languages. So sometimes the closest we can get to communicate with that part of ourself is we will have a feeling. We will have a sense of something. In fact, what we call the tactile sense. Some things to ponder. Slow down your breathing. Focus your attention on your inner self. What do you feel? What do you sense? And this is being recorded, so if you want to pause here for a moment, please feel free to do so. Close your eyes and breathe. Focus your attention on your hands. Can you feel the energy in them? Now focus your attention on your feet. What do you feel? Move your attention up the body towards the head. Notice how each part of the body feels as you bring your attention to it. And some affirmations. I trust my sense feelings. I am perfect recognition now. I am in perfect balance. I am the Manu still point now. No magic pill. If you engage in other modalities that are distorted, open your fields by drugs and excessive use of alcohol, you will drop your frequency. That is a choice, and it is a personal one. Doing a lotus breath before you do a few shots of tequila and have indiscriminate sex will not protect you from the potential of crashing your fields. And what they mean by that is when you join with someone sexually, you literally charge with their energetic fields. And if they have any distortions or miasms in it, they're going to share them. You're going to share them because you've lowered your frequency and you've lowered your defenses, basically, and now you're going to absorb what they have. They are techniques to be used with common sense and mature spiritual behavior. They're referring to the lotus breath. The strength of Keylontic science lies in the fact that persistence in the applications will change the reversal, but it is hard work and needs to be sustained on a regular basis. It is not a magic pill that says, abracadabra, your Merkaba is now spinning the right way because you did a Maharic seal and a flame body activation or did a lotus breath now and then. The GA, or the Guardian Alliance, which is a group of extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, and intertime beings, they're the ones who provide these teachings. The GA can provide you with the techniques, but it is up to you, not them, to make sure that you are all right. And that will be by the choices you make. Some things to ponder. The responsibility of mastery, sense, states, learning to identify and appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing will allow us to establish the greatest balance of energy expression within all aspects of our lives. What is uncommon sense? Can you recognize it in your life? Learning to identify and appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing will allow us to establish the greatest balance of energy expression within all aspects of our lives. How are you applying these in your life? What can you do to develop both your common and uncommon senses? Some affirmations. I appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing. The greatest balance of energy expression is established now within all aspects of my life. I am statements are very powerful. They're probably among the most powerful words in language at all. In Spanish, it's soy or estoy. Reclaiming our identity. And I'll pause here for a moment. We have multiple levels of identity. Within what we call the time matrix, you have 5 different levels of identity. There are 5 harmonic universes, 5 levels of density, and in the harmonic universe that we exist in here on Earth, it's called your incarnate personality. In the next density up, it's called your soul. In the one above that, it's called your oversoul. In the one above that, it's called your avatar. And in the 5th harmonic universe, it's called your rishi. So these are different multidimensional identities. We have a choice to define ourselves by limitation or to know ourselves through embracing our intrinsic eternal nature, and our choice will determine the experience we meet. You have been drawn into your reality for a reason, and only you can discover what that reason is and what significance this information holds for you. There are truly amazing things that are going on around you, so in your quest for personal purpose, think bigger and reach higher. Realize you are not limited by the old concepts of identity you once accepted. You are intended to grow beyond them. Are you going to look at yourself as a big avatar person? Jesus Christ was an avatar, an embodied avatar, a 12th dimensional. He embodied 4 harmonic universes of his identity. If you do, you will simply say, oh, one of those little galactic dramas again? No problem, I can handle it. You don't have to get cocky. You do not have to be terrified. You can just be at peace. If you are making yourself seem really small, the dramas can seem really big. This is what perceptual filters are all about. Are you big or are you small? Big does not mean ego-bound. It does not mean, hi, I'm going to be the master of the universe and show you how arrogant I can be. That just shows you how small you really are inside still. It means giving yourself permission to be interdimensional, to be intergalactic. Allow yourself to reclaim that part of your identity. Let yourself become big again. If you keep identifying with just the name you were given at birth here, the little life that you have experienced here, and keep defining yourself in terms of that being the only you that there is, you will feel tiny next to a tree. But you are not tiny. If we look at ourselves as being tiny, we look at ourselves as being frail. We look at ourselves as being perhaps not strong enough to handle what needs to be handled, not able to deal with what needs to be dealt with, be it a mutation in our body that drags our emotions all over the place and our physicality as well. Are you bigger than that mutation, or are you smaller? There are some of the questions, these are some of the questions to move into. Now that the indigos are waking up, indigos are also called crystal children, the drama itself and our avatar selves are going to allow us to experience challenges that will bring us back to that question. Are you big or are you small? What are you telling yourself about yourself? Self-talk. How many times do you say, I can't handle this, and freak out about something, either externally or in your head? How many times do you freak out silently and go get absolutely plastered so you can pass out and not have to think about it? Some people do. There are coping mechanisms people develop here. People do not need coping mechanisms if they think that they are big, especially if they know they are big. They only need them if they think they are small and powerless. This is where we start to realize the mechanics and bigness of the drama. We have a choice right then and there. Am I bigger than this or smaller than this? A grain of sand is small, but there might be an interdimensional trifold avatar in that grain of sand. It's time to remember your bigness. If it comes to a time when the world seems to go crazy outside of you, be it politics, wars, or natural disasters, realize you are bigger than the experience. You have the power to move through it peacefully. Start telling yourself that now, and you will be much more able to move through it with grace. Just because your body is small does not mean your consciousness and your connection to God's source is small. Something to ponder. What are you telling yourself about yourself? Become aware of your own self-talk. What are your coping mechanisms? Do you take a Valium when you get home to relax? These are coping mechanisms. What can you choose differently to say to yourself? And some affirmations. I am my Christos avatar self now. I handle all challenges with ease and grace. I am at peace now. I am peace now. Detached attachment. We come into a body, and the very minute we begin to enter this environment, we start to utilize strategies to get what we think we need as we express our limitation, lack, vulnerability, and other forms of fear. We trigger the law of karma, so we come in and start creating additional layers of rubbish that we have to address. We come into life and spend the first 20 years or so learning about games. We spend the second 20 years discovering that we are playing games. And we spend the last 20 years trying to undo the effects of the games. And that is common to pretty much all of us. When you have a perceptual filter, a sensory filter, and we're talking about here what's called the reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain. It means you do not see straight, you do not hear right, and you do not even communicate what you're trying to communicate. It is necessary for us to own this. If we can do this and still like ourselves in that condition, we would begin to set ourselves free. To like yourself where you are right now and to get rid of all the right, wrong, self-talk and other kinds of judgment replays is a real key move. It is the first step in assuming angelic mind, because what it is doing is reflecting the confidence and the knowledge that we are connected to Source, that we really are part of the oneness. We find ourselves in situations where we are aware of what the higher consciousness choice or response would be, yet we find ourselves choosing not to behave that way. That is our shadow, and because of the distortions in our template, it will tend to override the angelic mind or the angelic impulse. The act of creation is the means by which the impulse of angelic mind is brought into the here and now, made manifest. And the key is simply creating what we call time, an opportunity to consider the impulses that are coming from the shadow, and to insist that you have time to consider the impulses that are moving through your fields so you can choose differently. One of the most common excuses I hear is, I don't have time. I have a friend, her life's pretty miserable, and when I try to make suggestions about how she can improve it, I don't have time. It becomes a matter of how important is your peace of mind and your happiness to you. Use any little device that takes you out of the pressure of the situation that is being presented to you and allows you to move into a different space, a quiet space, where you can reflect, where you can think before you react. We call that responding. Just allowing time would help to stabilize the angelic mind impulse. And if you can carry that through into your sleep state, into the following day, you will find that you will wake up and perceive a situation quite differently than the way it appeared at the time. The angelic and shadow impulses are all about love and fear. In the Bermuda workshop, the speakers spent some time talking about issues of love and fear, which are virtual polar opposites. They mentioned the open heart teachings of the other spiritual paradigms, which actually encourage prevarication and encourage you to develop the gray area of experience because you have been taught you are not supposed to judge anything. This is not correct. What you do is practice detached attachment, which means you are able to distinguish between love and fear and the properties of each of them, and you do not allow anything in the middle. You look at any situation involving any other person, thing, or being, and you say, what is actually happening here? What is really occurring here? What is occurring here based somewhere on fear? Or is what is occurring here based somewhat on fear? Is it in me? Is it in them? Are we sharing it? And given my commitment to angelic mind, how do I change that? It does not mean to say that I have to say anything or do anything about your action. I express my sovereignty by saying, I choose not to associate with actions of that kind. They are not appropriate with frequency resonance that matches the way I feel that I am right now. You may find you have some of your own stuff to resolve, but what you do not do is you do not allow yourself to play with degrees of love or degrees of fear. It is one or the other. If you want to make progress, start looking at everything that is going on and your reaction to the world at large in those terms. You don't have to judge them. We don't preach judgment. We preach your freedom to choose how to support the development and restoration of as much primal life force current as you feel you can. In respect to yourself, choose to remove yourself from an environment that contains that phenomenon. When you start to get this together in your lives, you find there is a lot of stuff in your environment and in your hologram that does not want to be moved. All manner of fallout can occur as other people begin to respond and to react awkwardly, if not with resentment and rejection, to your attempts to pull more primal life force current into your shields, which means your frequency resonance rises, and that can feel uncomfortable to them, and they don't know why. It is no different than going to a social event, and you find some people gravitate towards each other because of their resonance, and other people cannot stand being near another one because of the dissonance. It is still about energy. It is still the same. And some things to ponder. Start to look at everything that is going on in your life. How do you react to the world at large? Are you choosing life-affirming actions which support the development and restoration of as much primal life force current as you can? If not, then what do you need to change in the way of thoughts and how you approach life? This week, try to create a quiet inner space where you can reflect. Allow yourself to move into a different space and time. And some affirmations. I express my sovereignty by saying, I choose to associate only with life-affirming actions. And here's something that's very important, owning our own stuff. Our first responsibility is to our own spiritual development and opening. In any exchange, a group consciousness forms, but that is a byproduct of what everyone is bringing to the group. This exercise is about taking ownership of what is going on within yourself. That is always within your control. The most important thing in personal growth and spiritual actualization is not so much what issues and challenges one may or may not have. The important thing is what one does with them. As we approach the dramas beginning to manifest within the political arena, it is time to look at things with the eyes of a person waking up, and eventually that person will become the eyes of a master. In the eyes of a master, you can see the God in all things and the good in all things, even if they appear to be negative when they are taking place in the drama. Eventually, the whole mess in the political arena is going to blow up because nobody is taking accountability for their hologram. Everyone's blaming everyone else. If we go into this with a victim mindset, we are not going to be very happy with the outcome, especially if we're attached to the outcome. We will stay in our power if we realize that this is part of a shared hologram that we, the only we there is, which is the one, are creating. Remember, God's source has broken itself into pieces, and each one has a different perspective, and some of them are playing the good guys, and some of them are playing the bad guys, but both of them can learn from each other. There's a reason for the polarity game. We will focus our energy not on what they are going to do to get us and how we can stop them, but on what do I do with myself that is most effective. That is where your power is. Bring it home. The power is yours. The power is in recognizing that it is your responsibility to take that power and use it consciously. You can either use it to heal, or you can choose to give it to somebody else with blame. Blame the government. However, as soon as you blame, you are saying, literally you are saying, here, take my power, run me around by the nose. You are giving someone else the opportunity to control you and your energy. The hardest work in our clearing is owning our own stuff. Be willing to take a look at it, all of it, no matter how unpleasant it is, no matter how much it stinks. Own your own stuff. No one can make you do or feel anything unless you give them permission. Masters own it, then heal it. Some things to ponder. Ask yourself, is there anything that I am not owning now that I need to? Is there anything that I am owning that is not mine? What is my relationship to power? And some affirmations. I am a powerful being. I am this. I am. Not I am that I am. I am this. I am. There's a big difference. The ball was in my court. I was having some disresonance with someone at my job, and for a period of 3 nights took that individual to the healing waters and into the flame. These are part of some techniques that you can learn to do with people. The situation radically improved quickly, and in gratitude to the universe, I said into the air, I am glad we healed this. Well, my relentless mentor jumped on that remark rather quickly and said, excuse me, who did the healing? Well, I caught the meaning of this right away. It wasn't us who did the healing, it was me. The ball was in my court. All healing is self-healing. Healing occurred because I made the shift. I was ready to change. It had nothing to do with the other person. Now, I did ask the other person to join me on another level, but whether or not that individual actually joined me willingly on a higher level is really irrelevant. The ball was always in my court, and it is always in your court. Learning to just say no. And no means no. There are many people, especially narcissists, who think no means the opposite. They think that rules are for little people. Courtesies are for little people. It is sometimes easy when these programs start to run, these victim-victimizer programs start to run, to stop them simply by standing in our power, by the way, which is considerable, and just say no. If you want your power back, you simply say, I will own my hologram no matter how icky it is, and whatever actors are there playing out those roles for me, I set them free with love. Do you love yourself enough to say no when something is not good for you? Do you love yourself enough to say no when everyone else is telling you to say yes? You can look at this in another way. What is the yes in your life that you would never compromise? Find that boundary line, and the no will follow. Just get on with whatever your particular package contains and just be happy with that. If you're looking for a secret key, then that is the one. It is okay. Just keep your boat pointed in the right direction. It doesn't matter if your sails on your dinghy are flapping. As long as you catch a bit of wind on the day you intend to, you move along. Something to ponder. When you want to say no, find your yes. And say no to all that would take you away from your yes. Question: is your yes, my relationship with Source comes first? And some affirmations. My relationship with God's Source comes first. I set myself free with love. I own my hologram now. I set all creation free with love. The power of choice. Free will choice is probably one of the greatest gifts that God gave to us. It matters not what our choices were in the past or our destination in the future. If our choice is to serve in the Christos realignment mission, then that decision is made in each and every moment, renewed with each breath, and anchored in every Christic action. To worry about what has gone before or is going to go on in the future is nothing but a distraction, guaranteed to keep you out of the Christic moment you happen to find yourself in. Choice is the most powerful tool we have. Choice is not only a reality, but it becomes our saving grace. It can also become the vehicle for taking us away from our heroic probability. Our heroic probability or our heroic path is our highest potential. Each moment we have the power to take a step closer to our heroic probability or head down an entirely different road. Getting down the heroic road requires complete ownership of your hologram and nobody to blame but yourself, but ourselves, for where we were at. If we want to step into a victim mentality and say that we are not a result of our prior actions, we can do that, but that will diminish our power. Another victim-like stance we can take is by saying we are locked into a probability by our past mistakes. Those who have issues can either move past those issues or stay stuck in them. If you stay stuck, it will eventually drag you down until you look at why the issue exists in the first place. The choice is yours, and suffering is a choice. The point of power is in the now moment. We are always just one choice away from the fork in the road. I used to have a sign on my desk that read, "Think before you think." I think I will now make one that says, "Choose before you choose." I'm not troubled by choice. I embrace it. It is the way that I'm going to get out of here. I know for a fact that those who expect to walk through those portals in their bodies, and they're talking about stargates here, ascension, are those that have reclaimed their power, and that can only be done by owning your own hologram completely. Something to ponder. Are you making conscious choices? Are these choices taking you towards or away from your heroic probability? Do you take complete ownership of your hologram? Do you accept full responsibility and accountability for yourself and your life and your choices and your hologram? And some affirmations. I embrace choice. I reclaim my power now. I am the power of the now moment. I am always in my Christic moment. Staying horizontal. Gossip. When we refer to horizontal and vertical, vertical refers to, instead of when we say go vertical, what that means is we're going within and we're going vertically up to our higher selves for answers. So we're looking for the answers within rather than going horizontally and seeking answers from other people. And here specifically, they're referring to gossip. Tend to your own gardens, and they shall draw to themselves the seeds upon the winds that will most flourish there. This game is as old as the hills. Why are you still engaging in it? To engage or not engage? That is the question. To be or not to be. Mindless gossip is the occupation of those most fully involved with hiding from themselves. It is a supreme action of self-destruction upon which those of the dark side persuasion depend. Be mindful of what energy activity you allow your minds to dabble in. Those who bear the wisdom of a guardian do not engage their attention upon the conditions of their neighbor's house, but rather impeccably attend to the condition of their own. Think twice with the soul before permitting the lips to engage. A closed mouth gathers no foot. Gossiping and spreading rumors are great ways of using your energies to stay horizontal and out of yourself. Such behavior is a direct violation of the Regent's Covenant, which many of us have made. It demonstrates just how much subconscious patterning is at work amongst such individuals. You will all get what you need exactly when you need it. We feel quite sure that if any of the individuals who were to be confronted about breaking their sacred oath, that they would feel shocked, nonplussed, and not a little embarrassed. But what is it that we are actually seeing here? A measure of Christic self-awareness and self-control, or simply a serious lack of it? The desire for recognition amongst one's peers and the beloveds, who are the very high beings who bring us these teachings, is perhaps the greatest Achilles heel of all. It should be evident to the older hands around the work that when an outbreak of nonsense such as this occurs, it presages a time of direct frontal attack from somewhere within the fallen angelic legions. During the closing session at Paxos, this was a workshop that was done in Paxos, which is an island in Greece. During the closing session at Paxos, we were warned by the beloveds that in coming times we would need to be much more aware of the need for each other, for our shared truth and trust, warmth, and ability to stand in our Christic power and awareness. This stuff reveals a little of what is implied in the difference between going vertical and going horizontal, as you would think of or experience it from a 3D perspective, and the extent to which progress is made in these ways is the extent to which you will transcend the detritus and verbal incontinence which marks the fork in the road just ahead. To lovingly acknowledge this reality is important as well as helpful. To do so is equal to acknowledging our love for the essence of all living things, whilst being aware of the difference between essence and behavior, remaining clear and free of predictable allegations of spiritual inconsistency or contradiction. It is not our place to point fingers or take someone else's inventory. Our responsibility is to make our own fields as strong as they can be, contributing to the overall indigo shield. This is not accomplished by going horizontal and looking at everyone else. Oh, look what she did. Look what she has. We have enough to take care of in our own hologram without poking in other people's business. Focusing on other people's stuff is a real good way of avoiding our own. We must move past our stuff. We have all participated in helping to learn this lesson and have reflected for each other what is in all of us that needs clearing. And I'm reminded of something that my mother shared with me years ago. Others are merely mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it reflects something you love or hate about yourself. It is a beautiful lesson we have all received and facilitated well for each other. However, any finger pointing serves to show us we need to tighten up our game. We are reminded of a remark made by an old colleague, appropriate to the times. We seem to recall that he said, "Why speak of a stick in my eye when you have a log in your own?" I was in the waiting room of an accountant's office where a mother and toddler were also waiting. And like most toddlers, this young lady wanted to explore everything. She touched the clock, and her mother said, "Not your business." She started touching my pocketbook, and Mom said again, "Not your business." She went for the plant, and again this young lady was told, "Not your business." A bit frustrated, the toddler then took herself back to where her mother was sitting and plopped in front of a pile of toys which her mother had for her and proclaimed, "My business." The mother smiled and said, "Yes, dear, it is." Just goes to show you, we do not get in trouble when we tend to our own business. Something to ponder. Where do you find yourself concerned about other people's stuff? What people or situations act as a trigger for you? What are they reflecting for you that needs clearing? What are they mirroring back to you? And some affirmations. I love all creation. I stand in my Christic power and awareness now. I am this. I am. Valuing all. When we recognize the blessed validity, worth, purpose, belonging, integrity, interconnection, interdependence, and infinite nature of all, we no longer need to prove self-worth and achieve self-validation through subjugation, judgment of, or competition with others. I'm a firm believer that competition brings out the worst in people, and that cooperation brings out the best. Because in a system of competition, people are competing with one another, and there's always going to be winners and losers. When we work together in cooperation, we create win-win scenarios where there are no winners and losers. Everybody wins. Members of a synocracy, which is a form of government or form of culture, willingly learn from each other and hold each other in such great unconditional divine loving reverence that they never allow disagreements to reduce their respect for the common bond shared within the universal Christos. Synocracy is a Christic society. Some may call it a utopian society. But it isn't just about technology. It's a society in which everyone loves one another. And free will choice is so valued that one person would never even dream of infringing upon the free will of another. Each member is equally valued and respected as an equally beloved part of the common Christos identity. Though individuals within a collective most often possess varying degrees of development, awareness, skill, commitment, and responsibility, each has gifts and lessons to bring to and receive from the collective. The contribution of all individual members is equally heard, valued, and appreciated, and all are perceived as being equal in value and blessedness. One of our challenges on the path of mastery is to recognize holiness in its humblest of places, within the honest expression of forthright humanness and healing, which is both a reflection of the core issues we have yet to heal within ourselves and a mirror for our own hidden potential to reach higher and transcend. Another is to remember what it means to love instead of judge, while maintaining the discretion and wisdom necessary to uphold the integrity of our own Christic status. Within these challenges are important lessons of mastery to remember, lessons that allow one to differentiate between true Christic and false Christic teachings, lessons that allow one to see clearly behind the illusions of manifest appearances, through which the difference between truth and deception, between love and manipulation, can be discerned. These are the lessons that were long forgotten in Atlantis, and the angelic human and indigo races of Earth have been living the consequence of this forgetting ever since. You have divine potential just as much as anything else in the universe. We are all created out of the consciousness of God, literally. The energy that we are composed of, that creates our consciousness, our conscious awareness, is made of the units of the consciousness of God. We are all blessed. All beings are blessed. Even the fallen ones, even the fallen angelics, they're just as much a part of God as we are. Something to ponder. When challenging people appear in your hologram, take time to focus on finding something about them to appreciate. What gifts of awareness are they bringing to you? What are they mirroring or symbolizing for you? You can appreciate them for showing you. Can you appreciate them for showing you where you are still in need of healing? Something to ponder. Take a moment to observe people today. Notice how each one is different. Different shapes, genders, sexual orientations, colors, different ways of moving through space. There truly is magic within creation. Expand into a feeling of appreciation for the diversity which makes life so interesting. And some affirmations. I appreciate all opportunities to heal. I am truly blessed. And I think that's a good place to stop for today. Next week, we'll pick up right here with my relationship with Source comes first. Source is another word we use, God, Source, God Source. God doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call it. So we'll see you all back here next week, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening.